Well, howdy, neighbors. Welcome to the Homestead today. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Appreciate you joining me here for another episode of Porch Talk. We air these every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And today's subject is regarding soaring food prices. And before we get into today's subject, if you're not a subscriber, we would appreciate you subscribing to our channel. It certainly helps us out. Some of you have emailed and asked how you could help our channel out in various ways. The best way is just simply subscribing. And also, if you give us a thumbs up, that always helps. And if you comment, while you're there and after you subscribe, a little bell will pop up there beside the subscribe icon. And if you will click on that, it'll give you notifications. It's called a notifications bell. And whenever we upload content to YouTube, then you'll be notified. So it'll help remind you when we've uploaded videos. Today's video is very important about soaring food prices, as if we don't have anything else to worry about. The Associated Press says that Donald Trump has lost the presidency, that Biden's now our new president. We've been told that the COVID, there's a resurgence of the Kung flu, and now we're going to be in lockdown. A lot of states are locking down. Even here in Oklahoma, we're having not really a lockdown, but some restrictions going into place. I don't think very many of them are going to affect me, but we have those going into place. We have the threat of a cyber attack now. Many things that's going on, and as if we didn't need more bad news, we have it today in the fact that food prices are going up and they are expected to soar. The government keeps an index of food prices, and back in May, the food prices done a dramatic increase, mostly because of beef prices. Beef went really high. There were some plants that shut down. Other protein meats and such as chicken and pork also went up a lot, but beef was the biggest jumper, and so it went up very high. And because of the beef price, it caused the index, the food price, to go up very high, and so the number that the government keeps. But in May, so they blamed that mostly on the COVID, and the number one driver was beef and the beef plants shutting down. There was a little while there you couldn't get beef and stuff at your local grocer, or you had to pay a very high price, and the prices are still, I feel, pretty up there. But last month in October, that price took another big jump, the biggest jump that it has had since May. And the people that's in the know, the people that watch these numbers, are saying what that indicates is in the near future, we're going to see a dramatic increase in food prices. They've been going up way higher than normal every month, and we're going to see that index continue to climb all the way through probably 21 and 22 and so forth. And so because of that, food prices are going to get very high. We know the other causes is inflation. The government's just out of thin air, through the cyber banking, they can just create money, give out these bailouts, but then they have to print money. Basically, is what we usually say is they're printing money, but they're watering down our money. So what's going to happen is it's going to eventually take a whole wheelbarrow full of money to buy one loaf of bread. Is what it's going to boil down to. And things are changing very rapidly in this fashion. And now we have a threat of the virus having a resurgence. Some are calling it, there's different, whatever you want to call it. There is, the numbers are going up. Some hospitals are filling back up, so they say. It makes you wonder sometimes, you don't know who to believe, but supposedly the hospitals are filling back up. So states are going back into lockdown. I've seen Michigan's going back into some very stringent lockdowns. Other states are. So what will happen again, probably in the very near future, we're going to see poultry plants and pork processing facilities, beef processing facilities, canneries, and a whole combination of processes that are going to be shut down that's needed for our food supply. So right now is time to get prepared. If you find something on sale, if it's something that you and your family will eat, buy some extra of those things and put back. Get your house in order. Get things ready, because things are coming that's going to cause food prices to escalate. Also, if one of the driving factors of the food prices is soybeans. Soybean prices are escalating. You might say, well, I never eat soybeans at my home. But if you eat anything bought from the store, or not anything, but a lot of the products, okay, that's bought at the store contain soy products. So soybeans are fed to poultry, they're fed to hogs, they're fed to beef. And soybeans, what makes them so good is they have a high concentration of protein. So they can feed a smaller amount but get more bang for their buck. But the soybeans have been skyrocketing. And in May, there was $8.33 a bushel. And just a day or two ago, they peaked out at $11.43 and are expected to even go higher. So the price is steadily, if you look at the charts, has just continued to climb and climb. And it's not the highest that they've ever been, but they're getting back up there in record territory again. There is a big demand for soybeans. And what happened was that China, we've been in this China trade dispute. The president, when he got elected, he said that he was going to go after China for their unfair trade practices. He said, I will go after them for they steal our intellectual properties, the things that China does. He says, I'm going to go after them. So President Trump did exactly what he said. And in the process, he made agreements with them. They didn't keep their agreements. And he said, I'm going to place tariffs on you, and I'm going to cause it to where our companies are going to leave China and come back to the United States, and that will hurt you financially unless you do what I'm telling you to do. And so in the process, the Chinese said, well, what we'll do, we'll retaliate. Who was Trump's biggest supporters? It was the rural people. And what are the rural people? They're mostly farmers and ranchers. Now, farmers and ranchers, all that I've known for years now, have said, we need to go after the Chinese. They don't treat us fairly. There's unfair trade deficit here. We buy way more dollars worth from them than they buy from us. We'll send us so many million metric tons of soybeans or corn to them, and any little old thing that they get upset about, they'll send them back, reject the whole thing, the whole order. So instead of treating us fairly, we need this to be more balanced, and that makes sense to me. And everybody that I knew was for it. They were like, we need to do something about China. But then when we get a president who does, it's like, oh, they're all wanting to jump ship. The first time they get in stormy seas, they want to abandon ship and they want to head for shore. So in the China knew what they were doing. China's not dumb. They know what they're doing. Our president ain't no dummy either. He knows what he's doing, especially when it comes to business. So it was working. And I've seen analysts on, oh, it ain't working. Oh, we're in a trade war. We're in a trade war. We needed to be in a trade war. And we need businesses, this is my opinion, to come back. We depend too much on foreign trade. And the two places that we should trade with the most, the United States, is Canada and Mexico. We ought to be number one, super number one. I know they just made this new trading pact, but those two countries ought to be our number one trading partners. Number two should be South America. Now, that's just my opinion, but I believe that's what we should focus on, is here in our hemisphere first. But because the multi-millionaire, billionaire folks, they feel like they've conquered the U.S. economy and they want to conquer the world economy. So they want us to be in a one world, global type economy, and so they're pushing this trade stuff. What happens is there's people makes millions of dollars off foreign trade. I'm maybe getting off too far on left field here, but there's people that make millions of dollars off of cattle and farm goods that would not know the north end of a southbound cow. I mean, they just would have no idea about any of this stuff, but they make bukus of money. It's all about the money. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. So China, they still had to feed their people, even though they said, we won't buy much from the United States. We will tell them we're going to, but we won't follow through. And they haven't done what they said they would do. There have been orders, but not as much as they should have been buying from us. So what happens? We have farmers stuck with soybeans, corn, wheat, especially number one was soybeans. And so in the process, got a bug there, but in the process, the farmers are like, now they're jumping ship. Some of them, not all of them. I've heard many farmers say that they're okay with it. And another thing is the government gave them subsidies. They had these programs they did. They used money they were getting from tariffs off of the Chinese good. They gave it to our farmers to help supplement them. China went to Brazil, Argentina, down in that area, mostly Brazil, and they bought their soybeans and supplies that they needed. But they overbought. Brazil sold too many. The price was good. They were getting good money. Brazil does not have the infrastructure that we have here in the United States. I just visited with a person a month or two ago that has been in Brazil and lived there for a short amount of time, a U.S. citizen, and he was telling me how back they are, set back, especially if you get outside of the big cities. They are way behind what we are here, and their infrastructure to get soybeans, corn, wheat, their harvest to the ports is very difficult. They have to go down their roads. I mean, we think the roads here in Oklahoma are rough. They say their roads there are very, very bad. And it's just not the same as here. But China still bought from them, but they oversold, and now they don't have enough soybeans to support themselves. Talking about Brazil. And so now Brazil has passed that they can buy our soybeans, our GMO Roundup ready soybeans that's been produced here. So they are purchasing from us, and that's driving up the market. Also now, China says, your news, according to the Associated Press, and Fox News and CNN, Biden's now the president, and Biden is friendly to us. Biden likes us, and he likes China. And so Trump don't like China too well. So now we have a friend, and he will lay off all the tariffs. So now all of a sudden they're placing all these orders for 2021, which is going to put a strain on the supply. So also, in the process of that, the government just come out with numbers, and they had what they call carryover, meaning there's a whole bunch of soybeans, corn, wheat. The corn, wheat, soybeans are the number three items that we produce here that really the whole world needs, is those three items for food items. So because they go into so many different things. You get anything that's got corn syrup, soybean oils, breads need the wheat, so forth and so on. So we even use corn for our fuel here. So everything revolves around those. So now the price has been driven higher and higher because of the demand. And now all of a sudden, since it looks like that Biden's going to be president, the Chinese now are placing all these orders. So the government, when their figures that they come through, they said, well, we're going to revise our figures because the carryover, meaning the amount of 2020 soybeans, corn, and wheat that was going to be carried over into 2021, which would still been leftovers and would need to be sold, that number has been reduced a bunch, meaning we are running out of those items. So it's going to cause food to escalate, because if you say, well, how does it affect me? I raise my own chickens, I raise my own beef, my own rabbits, whatever. If it has any kind of feed, if you buy them store-bought feed, I know there are ways to feed your animals that you can raise fodder and different things to feed them, but if you feed them like hogs, and in my opinion hogs and chickens especially, you have to feed them some supplemental grain. And even if you buy GMO, that GMO price is always, not GMO, non-GMO, okay, organic. If you buy that, the price is always higher, and it's going to get even higher in the days to come. So getting ourselves prepared. So if you're a homesteader and you're going to buy you some broilers this spring, those broiler prices are going to be higher than what you've been paying. Why? Because the people that raise them, say you buy from Murray McMurray Hatchery I think they're up in Missouri, wherever it is. There's all different kinds, different hatcheries all over the United States. My mind went blank on them. But say you're going to order in 100 broiler chicks this year. Well, the price of them is probably going to go up because it's going to cost them more money to keep those birds, to feed the breeding stock that they have. It's going to cost more to feed them, to get the eggs to hatch, to send you the baby chicks. Plus freight and all that's probably going to go up. Also just inflation, just the fact that we have printed so much money in inflation, it's going to cost you more to raise those broiler chicks than it did last year, probably a substantial amount. If it continues on, the analysts believe that we are headed in some major prices on feed. So that's going to affect your prices, that you have to invest in your hogs, in your chickens, and so forth. And the analysts also say that I have watched that we are headed into a time that people aren't going to be caught short again when it comes to groceries and supplies. In fact, the news has been talking about lately, there being now some more limits put on paper products. I know we don't eat those, but paper products are very important. Toilet paper, paper towels, things of that nature. They're going back in and putting restrictions on the amount that you can buy. A lot of stores never let their restrictions up all summer long, but some are going to go back in and tighten that back because there's going to be such a run. They believe with all these shutdowns, there's going to be more of a run on the stores. And it's going to hurt supplies, not just of paper products, but of food products. And the experts that I have listened to say they believe this time that people are really going to buy up. It's going to be a whole different story. They're not going to be caught off guard like they were before. And that's a good thing. ABC, Good Morning America, just had some videos on showing that they were recommending to people to stock up now on food. Ice Age Farmer was just talking about this as well, about these TV, mainstream media talking about it. But to stock up on food, your town, there are going to be disruptions in the supply chain. If we continue this shutdown, Joe Biden, they say he's not as strong on it now. He's more for wearing masks. I'm just being honest with you here. But I did hear him say that he would do shutdowns. He would shut down the country for as long as it took. Perhaps 5 or 6 weeks has been recommended. Folks, if we shut down 5 or 6 weeks, the whole country, we're in trouble. But now I'm hearing him back off of that a little bit and say that he might issue a national mask mandate. And I could live with that if I had to. I don't want to, but I could live with that, but rather than have a shutdown. But if we shut down, it's going to hurt our economies. Other world leaders are talking about possibly having to shut down their countries. And the world leaders are even talking about what if the United States shut down for 5 or 6 weeks or longer, that it would impact the entire world economy and supplies if we went into that. So it's a very scary, very serious time that we're in right now. Not knowing, should it be confirmed that Biden is the next president, which it has not been yet. If you read in your Constitution, I have a little Constitution book I meant to bring out here with me. It does not say that the news media, the Associated Press or Fox News or CNN, that they get to call who is our next president. Also, there's nowhere there that says that they are the Electoral College. The Electoral College is based upon our votes, and right now they're still counting. Some states have been called that are so close. This election could very well turn. Right now, if you just look at the numbers flat out the way they are, of course it looks like Joe Biden is leading the pack right now. But it is not over with yet. And the news media is saying Trump should step stepped down and yada, yada, yada. Don't want to get into all that stuff, but the election is not over with yet. So let's just say that somehow the election the results begin to turn back into Trump's favor. And it looks to me like there's several possibilities of that happening. I'm not here to argue all that, but if it did, these folks that are the nut jobs out there that are rioting, they are not going to know how to handle it. There's a lot of Karens in this world that aren't going to be able to handle what's about to come. So what will happen is we will see riotings, we will see looting, burning like we have never seen before is what I believe will happen. And because right now the news media has them convinced that Biden has won, Trump has lost. Well, I don't trust the news media, and I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to throw this out there to you. We were told by the news media that Biden would win by such a great majority that there was no need if you were a Trump supporter to even go out and vote, and they were wrong. And why? Because they lied. And the news media, I feel, is lying to people right now. So you believe what you want to believe, but just be prepared for the possibility that the election may go in Trump's favor. It started out that night in his favor, and then it seemed like Fox News and all of them was calling states to keep it in Biden's favor, to get it out of Trump's favor into Biden's. And now I think they're going to be shocked in the end. Either way the election goes, I'm prepared. And I'm going to tell you something else, folks. Either one of the guys, if they were to get elected, cannot save us from what's to come. Neither one of them. We need to put our faith and our trust in God. I have my preference of who I want to be president. I want Trump to stay as president. I want him. I voted for him. But if not, whoever got the most legal votes, that's who I want to be president. But I'm keeping my faith and trust in God no matter. If my candidate gets it, hey, that's great. But if the other candidate wins, and let me tell you something else I'm going to support. I'm going to do the right thing. You can do what you want to do, but I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to support the person that wins. I don't mean I'm going to agree with their policies. You don't have to agree with their policies. Hey, I've been a Trump supporter and I don't agree with all of his policies. So do I think he's a saint? He ain't a saint. But I'm going to tell you, I think he's doing a good job. But this is it. If it switches, and it very well could, I'm not making a prediction of whichever way because I don't know. But it is not called yet. So just be prepared for that. But either way, we are headed into some troublesome roads here. Troublesome waters are ahead for us, folks, and being prepared. And you say, how could I prepare myself for food? How could I save money on food? One thing, by not eating out. I know I have lots of friends that own restaurants. I know lots of people that's in the restaurant business. I don't mean to hurt their business, but I'm just telling you, eat at home is a whole lot cheaper than eating out. Learning how to cook and make stuff from scratch. One of my grandmothers used to make biscuits from scratch. And she kept a bowl of flour that she would sift through the sifter under the counter. Whenever it was time to eat supper, and if they were going to have biscuits, she would just get that bowl out. She would make biscuits just very, very quick. She'd have them. I've watched her do it many, many times. There'd be flour left on the sides here, real thick, and she would have a bowl of dough in the middle. And she'd pinch them off, put them in a pan that she had put butter in and put in the oven and heated it up. And she would take that biscuit and roll it in that butter and flip it back up on its other side into the butter and put that in there. And if you've ever had Popeye's biscuits, I love Popeye's biscuits. They were a lot like my grandma's, except my grandma's was 100% made from scratch, old-time biscuits. And why? Because they were cheap to make and they were a good filler. We had lots of beans, things like that. Learning how to make food from scratch, and you can do it. You can even go as far as buying your own wheat berries. We have some here just in case, but they'll last for a long, long time. They have found what we call wheat berries, wheat seeds, in the pyramids over in Egypt. So that, are thousands of years old, they believe. So just to tell you, they'll last for a long time. You can make your own food. We have people here that I know that are on food stamps, and I'm not arguing whether they need it or not, but the point is they can go to our grocery stores down here and buy processed foods, processed chicken stuff, and a lot of it's because they just don't know how to cook. And we've got people we know, and they tell us what they buy, and they blow their money on stuff where we've known other people that were on assistance, and they go and are wise in their purchases, and they purchase meats and grains and things, and they learn how to make things themselves, and the money that they get goes much, much further, the assistance that they have. So you can do it. I'm telling you, we were raised poor. My grandmother was raised poor. She was poor, but she knew how to get through on very little. She's one of them that was raised up in the Depression times and knew what it was like to do without, but she had learned how to make things on her own. And there's so much that you can do learning to make on your own. Feeding your livestock and stuff, if you're a homesteader like us, it is concerning. What are we going to do about feed prices? I've been through times where feed, corn and stuff like that just went very, very high price to the point you were like, I don't know if I can afford to keep buying. But maybe stocking up now what you can. I mean, using what you've got for right now. And some people aren't doing anything, and they're going to be caught unaware. But get yourself prepared now for what's to come, because either way, no matter which direction the election takes, we're headed into some rough times. Talking about making dough, I heard a story of a young couple that got married, and the young man, he was getting frustrated because his wife couldn't cook biscuits, and she was always burning them and stuff. So one day he just threw a fit, and he said, I wish you could make biscuits like my mama can. And she looked at him and she said, I could if you would make dough like my daddy can. So anyway, there's something to that. But if you have the resources, and the Bible says little is much if God is in it. There was a story in the Bible where a woman had a cruise of oil. She had a debt she couldn't pay, and she went and borrowed all these containers, and the man of God told her, said, just keep pouring that oil out. She poured and filled up all of her containers till there wasn't nowhere else to put any oil. Then the oil stopped. He said, go sell that oil that you have in all those containers and pay your debt off. And she did. There is a way. God will make a way where there seems to be no way, but you got to have a want to. You got to have that desire to get in there and do things, but you can do it if you want to, and especially when you've been warned ahead of time. Another thing I'll just tell you, meat prices are expected to soar. The input costs, the feed prices are getting higher. The demand's getting higher. Now, what we get, I raise cattle, so the price that I get live weight is probably not going to go up. It probably will sometime, but not just right now. But the price in the future of what they're selling at the store is expected to climb. I follow a price index called the box beef cutout price. That's the price that they sell. The retail cuts, the nice cuts of meat have really went up. And here lately, I can't tell you the number, but it has been climbing. I wish that the price that we get here would go up as well in that. Also, I mentioned soybeans, corn prices. The futures index has really been going up, and the corn is in everything, and we even use corn for our fuel. I don't know how much I agree with that, because I'm like, why use your food supply to fuel your cars when we have plenty of oil and natural gas here to fuel our automobiles? But nonetheless, it's something that happens. But if corn goes higher, and they're good to use corn for other things, like they use the byproducts of the ethanol, the leftovers to feed cattle and stuff. They do some good things with it, but there's going to be in the very near future, and it's already started. It's already been going on. People have shared videos and pictures of going to their stores and being shortages, but I think it's going to get much worse throughout the next few months, and perhaps I would say the next year. By this time next November, I'm thinking things will have gotten better. But what's next to come? We've had all these things happening. I'm like, what is next? What could possibly happen next? And that ain't for today's video to talk about that, but there's definitely some more things to happen in the future, I believe. So being prepared, always being prepared. I always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I know this, if I'll do my best, and I know this for sure, God will always do the rest. Hey, I appreciate you watching today. May God richly bless you. We'll see you next week here, 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights for another episode of Porch Talk. God bless you. We're gone.